The prosperity gospel is easy to spot when it is loud and polished and televised. It promises health, wealth, ease, and success if you say the right words or demonstrate just enough faith. Most thoughtful Christians reject that version outright. And yet there is a quieter form of prosperity thinking that slips into our prayers, shapes our expectations of God, and when unmet, becomes the reason for our disappointment, our distance, our anger toward Him. This subtler version of the prosperity gospel does not usually ask for luxury or excess. It asks for relief from my suffering. It asks for resolution to my problems. It asks for clarity or reconciliation or change. Often these good desires, they are biblical desires, God-honoring desires, but somewhere along the way, desire turns into expectation, and expectation quietly turns into entitlement. When that happens, prayer suddenly shifts from submission to negotiation. You can hear it in the way people talk about God. I prayed and He did not come through. I did what I was supposed to do, but God did not respond. I asked Him to fix this and He didn't. The assumption underneath those statements is not neutral. It reveals a belief that prayer obligates God to act in a specific way within a particular timeline to achieve a specific outcome. And when He does not, the conclusion is often not, I misunderstood, but God failed. This shift is where the subtle prosperity gospel does its real damage. It reframes God as the responder and us as the evaluator. He becomes the one who must move and adjust and explain and justify Himself. We decide whether His response or lack of response was acceptable. That posture does not feel arrogant to the person praying. It feels wounded, confused, even fateful. But at its core, it reveals a theology where God's goodness is measured by His compliance with our desires. Biblically, prayer has never been about moving God toward us. Prayer is about aligning ourselves with Him, the unmovable one. It is not a lever that forces action, but a means of dependence that exposes our hearts. When a prosperity mindset shapes prayer, however refined it may be, it trains us to interpret silence as rejection, delay as indifference, and suffering as evidence that something has gone wrong with God. This blind spot is why counselors, disciplers, pastors must listen carefully, not only to what people pray for, but how they interpret unanswered prayers. The issue is rarely the request itself. The problem is what the request assumes about God's role, God's character, and God's obligations toward us. Subtle prosperity thinking is not always about getting more. Often it is about avoiding loss or pain or avoiding waiting. And when God refuses to be managed, the heart must decide whether it will submit or accuse. Unanswered prayer does not mean God is distant. It often means He is doing something deeper than what we asked for. The real question is not whether God will move, but whether we will.